Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Caspian and I read books, a lot of books, mainly library books. And I'm here today to talk about my May wrap-up. So, today I'm gonna talk about the books I planned to read in May, just short, to say which one I didn't manage to get to, if any, and which I did, etc. And then I'm gonna show you the stats for May. So you know how many books I read, and if you are interested in the few stats that I keep. And after that, I'm going into each and every one of the books that I read in May, but just shortly, because I have already done reading updates of each and every book, and you can find those in my reading update playlist. So I'm gonna try not to linger on each and every one, just briefly tell you what it's about and what I thought about it and what how many stars I gave them. So if you're interested in seeing the video about what I wanted to read in May, then you can find that here. And let's get going, right? Okay, so the books that I planned on reading in May were 8 books. And the first one that I actually started was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. So the first book I wanted to read in May, I started. But I read about maybe, I don't know how many pages, but I didn't get far into it before realizing that uh, the romance or like there was something about it that wasn't for me. I can't really remember now because it's been over a month. But I remember that I wasn't really keen on the female main character and the plot line. I just didn't feel like something I would be interested in, unfortunately, because I know there are vampires and I love vampires. But it was just something that was a bit off about it for me. And yeah, no, so I skipped Bride by Ali Hazelwood, but I do intend to give her another chance at some point. So somewhere along the line she's gonna be like a second chance author for me. So please leave your recommendations. The second book that I planned to read in May was Annie Bot by Sierra Greer, and I did read that one, so I'm going to talk about that one, and I do have a video with a reading update on Annie Bot. And then I planned to read The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I did read that one as well, so I have a video on that, and I'm gonna talk about it briefly in a moment. Then I tried out the fourth book, which was A Pirate's Life for Tea by Rebecca Thorne, the second book in the Tomes and Tea series, and tried out. Yeah, I read about 70 pages, I think, somewhere along the line 60, 70 pages before realizing that I didn't really fancy it right now. I do have hopes to pick it up again someday and go into it knowing what I didn't know when I went into it this time. So what I didn't know was how heavy it was going to be on the romance. And then I planned to read Looking Glass by Christina Henry, and I did read that one. Then I planned to read The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling. I did read that one. And then I plan to read House of Many Ways by Diana Wynne Jones. And I did read that one. And the 8th book that I planned to read in May was Legendary by Stephanie Garber. And I also read that one. So out of the 8 books that I planned to read in May, I read 6 books. And 2, I would say one of them, The Bride, not The Bride, but just Bride, right? By Ali Hazelwood, I DNF'd forever. And A Pirate's Life for Tea, I soft DNF, or I like to use the term pause. I put it on pause, and I can put it on play. I don't do audiobooks, so it's not literally, but yeah, you get the picture. I put it on pause. I soft DNF it with plans to resume it at some point. So those were the 8 books that I planned to read. So 6 of them I'm going to mention in this video, and I have reading updates on them. Now we're going to go into my reading stats for May. And I have made one mistake on this picture. Who can spot the mistake? So I'm going to give you a few seconds to just spot the mistake. Yep, the mistake is that I spelled May the Swedish way, with a J instead of a Y. So, yeah, let's just get that out of the picture. Now we have given that some acknowledgement, and we can move on, right? So as you can see here, in May I read 8 books. So on top of the 6 from my TBR, I read 2 extra books. And that is the same amount of books that I read in April. So out of those, 6 were written by American authors and 2 were written by British authors. And 1 was sci-fi, 5 was fantasy, 1 was a mystery, and 1 was a fantasy horror. 4 of these were YA books, so half of my 8 books were YA books. 2 of those were actually middle grade, but I forgot to put that in here, but yeah. And you can see my statistics for the star ratings. I gave 2 books 5 stars, 3 books 4 stars, 3 books 3.5 stars. That's actually not accurate because I recently realized, so after I made this picture, I realized that I gave 2 books 3.5 stars and 1 book a 3 star, but nothing lower than a 3 star. So I think it was a good month. And my average rating was, according to this, was 4.06, but I don't really know what it is if I put 1 on 3 stars instead of 3.5 stars. I haven't calculated that yet. So, yeah, it's what it is. It is what it is. And then for pages, I read 2,574 pages in May, and that is 83 pages a day. And this is actually quite lower than April. So I read the same amount of books, but they were a few books were shorter, I would say. So yeah, because in April I read 110 pages a day when you calculate it on all the days. So I think it was about 700 pages more. So one chunk of a book more in pages worth. So the beautiful flowers in the background are flowers that I got from a friend of mine for my birthday. That was in May. Yeah. So it was my birthday month. And I think one of the reasons I read less in May than I did in April was that I went into May trying not to be so hard on myself. And I actually went into May thinking I would read more, because I went into May thinking I was going to read what I wanted, whenever I wanted, nothing else. But it's always this thing with the library books, that I always have a lot of library books at home that has to go back to the library at certain dates. And I realized that I still wanted to read those books, most of them. So I think that's what made it harder for me. And I always have books on reserve that I got home. So yeah, one of the books that I read extra was one I think that I had on reserve and had to get home. And yeah, and I had to read within the month of May. So it was a bit more pressure on myself than I would have liked for it to be. So I think I went into it feeling like, oh, I'm gonna treat myself and I'm gonna read what I want to read, and I don't, no pressure. But it didn't really amount up to that. It amounted to me trying anyway to read books that I had at home from the library before they were due. So I think it worked for like a week or something, like the first week of May, which is the week that I had my birthday in. So yeah, that's something. But yeah, it didn't really work that way. I think at some point I would have to stop putting things on the waiting list for on the library and have like a month of a reset of nothing and just borrow the books I want to borrow and read from my own shelves, and maybe that would be good for me. I don't know. So yeah, it's not really possible when you're a constant, when you are a constant person, person that constantly goes to the library. So yeah. Anyway, so that was my stats for May, and so I have 8 books that I'm gonna briefly talk about in this video, and you have already seen them in my reading updates, but here are some just yeah, here's a wrap up. So the first book that I read in May was Anibot by Sierra Greer, and this book is a sci-fi book. It's a standalone, and in this book we follow Doug and his robot girlfriend Annie, and I would say that this book is mainly about Annie's personal journey of self-discovery and how she fits into the world and discovering her own needs and her own wants and separating herself from what Doug needs and what Doug wants. So, yeah, I gave this book a 4 stars, and I remember being so disgusted by Doug, and being so, who I was cheering on Annie all the way through the book. I remember being so disgusted by Doug in the beginning, and also there was a lot of intimacy, so a trigger warning for this book would be the intimacy between robot and human, and also I don't think it's hard to say if there's essay in this book because that I think I consider it to be that way because I consider Annie to be a person with her own wants and needs, and that we should respect, that Doug should respect. So when he wants something that he thinks that she needs to give him because he bought her and he owns her, and he kind of he does what he can to force her to comply. I would say that that falls within that umbrella term, but I think that's one of the questions that this book raises for each and every one of us that reads it. Is it how human is Annie, and what does that mean, and what would it mean, and how would relationships between robots and people be, and how would they develop, and what would they mean, and at which point is someone a person or a human even, no matter what we're made of, you know. So yeah, I did enjoy the discussion of it, the thoughts that it raised, and I did like it because it raised questions within me, and it made me think and evaluate and reflect upon things. And then there of course were things that I didn't like Doug, but we weren't supposed to like him. So if you want to know what I thought more right after I had read the book, because I have done some self-reflecting, I think, since then. But if you want to see me rant about this a little bit, then you can go watch that video. So yeah, that reading update. And I do try to put my books on like the thumbnail. So every reading update has a thumbnail with the books that I am discussing. The second book that I read in May was The Brothers Hawthorne. There is nothing more Hawthorne than winning by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 4th book in the Inheritance Game series. And in this book, we follow 2 of the brothers from the previous books, and we follow Grayson and Jamie as they are being thrown into their different adventures. So there's kind of two stories going on at the same time, and during those stories, we also get to know these brothers a bit more deeply, and we also get to meet their fathers and some other family members. And to be honest, I don't really remember Grayson's story, but I did enjoy the emotional aspects of it. So I gave this book 3.5 stars, and I remember, as I said, I don't really remember Grayson's storyline, but I remember the emotional aspect of it, and the relationships in his storyline more than the story itself. And in Jameson's storyline, I do kind of remember more about the storyline, and that he's trying to get into this place called the Mercy because his father wants him to get into this secret society almost to call the Mercy and win a game there. So because his father lost the previous year and he wants his son to win back whatever he lost. So I remember that story, and I remember liking the game. I did only give it a 3.5 stars because I did think that this was it wasn't as enticing, and I didn't enjoy it as much as the previous books in the series. So yeah, it's considered a mystery novel. The third book that I read in May was The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling. This is the third book in a series that has two names, The X-Hex and Graves Glen. I think on the book or inside the book it says The X-Hex, but when you look it up on Goodreads, it says Graves Glen series. So I don't know. But in this book we follow Bowen and his love interest that I have completely forgotten the name of. I have completely forgotten her name, but I do have a reading journal next to me, so I am going to look that up and see if I have been smart enough to write that down. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, Tamsin. Why is her name so hard to remember? Tamsin. So we follow Bowen and Tamsin in this book, and Bowen is the brother of Riz, who is the male main character in the first book, the X-Hex. Tamsin is a new character. I think she did have a role in the second book, but not a very big one. I remember her not being that liked, but yeah, so she is in this book. She is like a treasure hunter for that's her career. So she finds magical items for people that then buy them from her. She both does it on like she gets assignments to find different objects of like magical objects, but he can also look them up for herself and then sell them to the highest bidder. So Bowen is a wizard in this book, and he hires Tamsin to find the magical items for him, and she's supposed to do this exclusively, but of course she isn't. So she finds an assignment and accepts that to find this jewel that she's gonna have to go from America to the UK and visit a wedding to be able to find this. So she's gonna go to a castle. I think it's in Scotland, and she needs to get this. And it's not really explained if it's something that someone wants back or if she's just gonna steal it. And when she gets to this wedding, she realizes two things. One is that the place is enchanted and protected, so it's gonna be harder for her to do this. The other, and it's haunted. It's haunted. And then the other thing is that Bowen is there. And yeah, So they decide to do this together. Not like first off, but to be able to get a grip on the story before reading it, you need to understand that, okay, yeah, they meet at the castle. They at some point decides to do this together, and then there's some time travel, there are ghosts, there are there are a lot of things involved, and their romance kicks off. So this is a romantasy, I would say, but I think that these books would, they would have merit without the romance aspect in them. And I did give this book a 5 star, and I'm really sad that there aren't any more books, because I do enjoy these books really very much. One of the things that I really enjoy is that the men in these books are green flags. So uh, even though I think that Bowen and the brother Wells is like they are cut from the same cloth a bit too much. Uh, I do enjoy that they are very green flag. They ask for consent, and they are a lot about, what does the woman want, and everything should be equal and mutual, and stuff like that. I think the author really did a good job there. So if I had children and they were of an age that they could read more romance types books, I think this would be a good place to kind of learn. I would rather they read these books than watch porn or something like that. So yeah. So I do recommend this series if you are into witchcraft, and it's set in this world, but a magical version of it, I would say. Okay, so the fourth book out of 8 that I read in May was Legendary by Stephanie Garber, the second book in the Caraval series. I read this in Swedish, and the Swedish title is just Legend or Legend, so Legend. And in this book, we follow Donatella, and it's if you read it, I don't want to say too much about the plot, because I don't want to spoil for anyone who hasn't read the Caraval yet or hasn't read this one yet. So but in this series, Caraval is a form of like festival or carnival. Carnival, I think it's the word. And it's a yearly carnival that when it takes place, you can get a ticket, and if you get a ticket, you choose to either be a part of the game in a way that you are an actor. You get a part assigned to you, or you can play the game and follow leads and try to be the sole winner of the game, so that you can get a wish fulfilled by the owner of Caraval, whose name is Legend or Legend. So in the first book, we followed Scarlett's point of view through one of these games, and in this book, we follow Donatella's point of view through another one of these games. And an extra aspect of this book is that we are introduced to a set of cards, some oracle cards or tarot cards almost, and these play a very, very big role in this. So they are, I think, they are foreseen or foreshadowed in the first book through the Prince of Hearts. I think that's the word in English, but the storyline is more prominent. It's that part of the story is more important than in this book. So yeah, we followed Donatella in this book, and I gave this book 4 stars, and I'm going to talk about what I thought of it. So, as I said in my reading update, I really enjoyed getting Donatella's point of view, because I lacked that in the first book. Or, as a matter of fact, even though we got Scarlett's point of view in the first book, I thought that we didn't get to know the sisters deeply enough. And my hope for this book was that we were going to do that. And I think we did. Mostly Donatella because it was her point of view. But we also got to know a little bit more about Scarlet. So we kind of peel the layers of these characters a little bit. And that is something that I felt that we got when it came to other characters in the book, in the first book. And I'm glad that we continue doing that in this book. So I really enjoyed this book. As I said, I give it a 4-star, and I'm looking forward to reading the third and last book in this series. And I have it at home. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of it because I don't know what it how it's pronounced, and I think I'm gonna botch it. So anyway, it's a fantasy, and I recommend it if you enjoy games, and it's kind of silly also in a way. It is YA, so know that when you go into this. So the fifth book that I read. So if you remember from the books that I said that I wanted to read in May, I had House of Many Ways on that list by the same author, Diana Wynne Jones. Because I don't think I was under the impression, but I did I made a mistake, and I mistakenly borrowed House of Many Ways because I thought it was the second book in the series, the whole House Moving Castle series. It wasn't, but I kept that book at home because there was a waiting list on it, and I wanted to be able to read it before I have to give it back. So I had to go to the library again to borrow this one and read this one before, because this is the second one in the series. So this book is called Castle in the Air by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the second book in the House Moving Castle series. And in this book we follow, what was his name again? I always forget his name. Abdullah. We follow Abdullah, and Abdullah is a merchant. He has like this little booth at the market, and he sells carpets. And one day a guy comes to him and sells him a magical carpet. And then he falls asleep on this carpet because he's paid a lot of money for it. He doesn't want it to be stolen, and he doesn't want it to fly away. So he sleeps on this carpet, and when he dreams, he accidentally gives the command to the carpet to fly to whatever place. And where he ends up at a place where he meets the girl of his dreams, and she is named the Flower in the Night. And then there is a lot about these two getting to know each other before we are introduced to other characters of this book that are of importance. But one thing about the plotline that is important is that in this world, in this book, there are princesses being abducted. So, and the Flower in the Night is a princess, and along the same time as the king wants Abdullah, he's hunting him for some reason. Flower in the Night is also being abducted. And then towards the end of the book, they end up in the same place, and that's when we are introduced to more characters, and things really take off, I would say, in my opinion. So this was, I gave this book a 3 stars, 3 stars. So this is the one that I didn't give 3.5, that I lowered my rating on. And I lowered my rating on this one because I realized that I did not enjoy it as much as the House of Many Ways, and I had to let that be shown. So this book I didn't like, even though I did kind of enjoy the storyline in the beginning. That wasn't what I was in for. I was in for more of Howl and Sophie and that bunch, And yeah, we didn't get to the castle in the air until like in the later portion of the book, and that was too late in my opinion. I would have liked that part of the book to have been stretched out further in the time ahead, and yeah, it was unbalanced in my opinion. There was too much. It was too much about Abdullah and his journey when he was on the run was so long. I really didn't enjoy that very much. So yeah, it was some of the aspects of it was fun when we got to, you know, the conclusion of the book made it a bit more fun, but not fun enough. I will never read this again. So I gave it a 3-star because I did enjoy reading it, but I didn't enjoy it enough. Yeah, but I'm gonna settle on 3 stars and I'm gonna move on. If you want to know more, go back to that video, please, and see what I'm talking about. Yeah. How have you read all of the 3 books in the Howl's Moving Castle series? What do you think about this middle book? Do you think that it really fits the storyline? Do you feel like Abdullah's storyline is a bit misplaced like I do, or do you really just enjoy it? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So the next book, obviously, was How So Many Ways by Diana Wynne Jones. And I gave this book a 3.5 stars. So a half star more than Castle in the Air. And the covers I'm showing you are the covers of the books that I read. There are many covers, but these are the covers that they had at my library. So that's why. So in this book, we follow Charmaine Baker. She is a young, I would say she's a girl. She's nowhere near a woman. She's a young girl. She's about 13, 14 years old when she's tasked with uh, house sitting for her great uncle William, who's a wizard. So he's going to live with the elves for a while he is he's recovering and being cured of an illness. So Charmaine goes to live in his house and take care of his dog, Waif. And she's there like a day or two when there's a knock on the door and Peter comes over. Okay, so Peter is supposed to be the apprentice of William that has gone off to the elves. And he ends up taking care of the house together with Charmaine. Charmaine has also sent a letter to the king to ask if she can help them sort the books of their library. So she actually gets a reply. So she spends her days with the king sorting books. And in that place, she meets Sophie and Howl and their son. And so they are present. So I enjoyed the one thing that I enjoyed was them back in the picture so fast because I had missed them in the second book. And I also liked I do really enjoy the magic system in these books. And the House of Many Ways are of course the wizard's house. I'm not going to tell you about the many ways if you will want to read these books. So we are essentially following Peter and Charmaine, making a lot of mistakes, trying to learn from their mistakes, trying to learn magic as they go, because Charmaine realizes that maybe she has some powers that she didn't know of. And they are trying to help Sophie with something. And yeah, it's I did enjoy the storyline. I enjoyed the world building. I enjoyed most of the characters. I think this was a solid 4 stars for me, but the 3.5 stars comes from me not liking Charmaine. Her personality is not for me, and it's not just her personality, it's also the lack of personal development throughout the book. She never seems to learn anything. Peter learns things. They are the same age. He learns things, and she is like she learns for a second and then no, she didn't learn anything. So I'm not, yeah, I didn't really enjoy reading from her perspective, which we do. So I think I would have enjoyed it more if she had learned from her mistakes, at least. Yeah. So I think I would probably read Howl's Moving Castle again at some point, but it would take a lot for me to read the two last books. But in the order of this, I like the first book more, the last book second, and then the second book the least. So the second to last book that I read in May was Looking Glass by Christina Henry. This is the third book in the Chronicles of Alice series. So this is a series with Alice in the Wonderland and Alice in the what is the other title? I don't know. These are retellings of Alice in Wonderland and those books. So and those stories. And in this book, this book is actually divided into novellas. So there's 4 novellas in this series, and we do follow the same characters as we do in the 2 previous books. That was Alice and the Red Queen. And those characters are Alice and Hatcher. So we keep following those characters and we get to know them a lot deeper. Their story continues, but we also get to know a bit about their background, and we do get one new point of view in one of these novellas, and that's a family member of Alice that is introduced to the story. And yeah, I recommend this if you like Christina Henry and if you liked Alice and or the Red Queen. I think there is, if you liked those 2 books, then there's no reason you shouldn't read this one. I gave this a solid 5-star because I really enjoy Christina Henry's writing, and I've given all of her books that I have read so far 5 stars. Yeah, I want to read them over and over and over again. This is fantasy horror. So, yeah, I really enjoyed following the characters more and getting to know them. And I also think that the story was wrapped up in a really good way. I am very happy with this. Yeah, I don't think there's more to say because I don't want to say too much because there are two books before it, and I don't want to spoil anything. If I do go into like the different stories in this book, then I will spoil the 2 other books. So I'm not gonna do that. The last book that I read in May was The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreaking Magic by Brienne Randall. And this is a fantasy and it's a second chance romance. So in this book we follow Sadie and Sadie's family. So Sadie is from a family that has where everyone has the ability to have magical abilities. And we follow her grandmother, and her twin brother Seth. We also follow her love interest for the second chance romance, which he's called Jake. So in the beginning of the book, we only follow Sadie, and we find out that when the twins, Sadie and Seth, were preteens, they found out what their magical abilities was and also what curse that comes with the magic. Because in this book, every magic has a curse. And her curse is that she's gonna have to go through 4 heartbreaks in her life. The first one being when Jake left her. He's her high school sweetheart. The second heartbreak was when Seth left her. So when this book starts, Seth has been away for a year and he's very missed by his family, and they don't know where he is. So she's got 2 heartbreaks left, and she's kind of almost bursting at the seams because she's not doing very well. uh, and in this book, like the main plot line, I would say that there is a curse connected to Seth, Sadie, and their mother. Their mother left them when they were little. So she left them when they were little, and this has something to do with a curse that Seth and Sadie need to work out, or preferably break. And that's kind of the plot of the story. And I gave this book 4 stars. So, as I said in the video with the reading update, I didn't really enjoy Sadie ruminating over her relationship or past breakup with Jake. I thought that was given too much space in the beginning of the book. And that's kind of why it doesn't get a 4 star. It doesn't get a 5 star because I did enjoy the world building. I found it to be solid. I think this would be a great TV series or a movie, but it was too much to only get Sadie's point of view. I would have maybe liked for it to be broken up with Jake's point of view. I would have loved Jake's point of view. I think in a perfect world, I would have had Sadie, Jake, and Seth point of view. 3 points of view in this book. And that would have been a better story, I think. So, yeah, because as soon as the other characters were introduced, Jake had come back and Seth had come back, and there were more things happening. And the author didn't have time to put on the rumination, and which had to introduce other people. Then I liked it more. So in the beginning, when it was only Sadie, I didn't really like her personality and how she really was overthinking things. But more of that would not. I don't have room for that. I have my own mind that takes up a lot of time and space. So yeah, me and Sadie, not best friends. So these were the books that I read in May. Anibot by Sierra Greer, 4 stars. The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, 3.5 stars. The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling, 5 stars. Legend or Legendary by Stephanie Garber, 5 stars. No, 4 stars. Castle in the Air by Diana Wynne Jones, 3 stars. House of Many Ways by Diana Wynne Jones, 3.5 stars. Looking Glass by Christina Henry, 5 stars. And this is actually the wrong the wrong cover. This is the cover that was available on Fable when I did my wrap up there. And then The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brianne Randall, 4 stars. So yeah, that is my reading wrap up for May. I hope you enjoyed that. I tried to be brief about all of the books, but it's hard. It's really hard. So yeah, I am in the middle of reading some very interesting books right now, and I'm trying not to push myself with books that I have from the library. But it's like a constant battle against the clock. So I hope you enjoy your reading. I'm trying my best to do so with mine, and I will see you in my next video, which will probably be a reading update video or something like that, or maybe a birthday haul with books that I was mostly gifted. Maybe that. We'll see what comes next. Shingling.